This series of exercises is meant to help you improve your quality of movement. We're starting off with the 90-90. You're going to sit down on the ground and use your hands to support you through a full range of motion. Sit tall, breathe, and transition back and forth from one side to the other. Here, my left leg is in external rotation, and the right side is an internal rotation. We transition from side to side, holding each position for a few seconds before transitioning back. Place your hands wherever you feel is necessary in order to give you some support. Now I'm holding the left side in external rotation as I work the right side in and out of the range of motion. You want to pivot over the heel, and as you go down towards the ground, try to press the knee into the ground. If it's far away, you can use a pillow. Sometimes it's hard to bring things to the ground, so you have to bring the ground up to the pieces of your body. Over time, you can wean yourself away from the support. Remember, breathe deep. Have a fluid breath going. You should be able to maintain a conversation as you go through this. After going through a few internal rotations, you'll see I sit here in the right side 90-90. My right hip is an external rotation. My left hip is an internal rotation. I place my hands on my knees and I work my posture nice and tall. I have my eyes focused on something in front of me and I'm focusing on my breath. Here I change the position of my hands to get more out of the range of motion. Slowly transition by placing your hands behind your body, driving the knees away from each other at the center, and then settle into your left side. Oftentimes, one side is a little more challenging than the other. Feel free to go back to that side and finish there. We're never going to be quite symmetrical, but we can strive for it. And we should at least understand the difference between the left and the right side of our bodies. It'll give us insight into how to train later. Here I reach around my body a little further to get some more out of the stretch. Next, we're going to transition to our backs. Lie down, tuck a knee to your chest, and give it a good hug. Remember, we want the air to continue to flow, never holding our breath. Focus on full inhales and full exhales. If you can keep it to nostril breathing, even better. After a few hugs, you do some ankle rolls. Do 5 or so clockwise, and then 5 or so counter. Slowly go through the range of motion, trying to touch every number on the clock. Next, I tuck the knee up to my chest and drop it across the body. Again, don't go forcing anything here. Work with what you've got. Listen to your body and go through whatever range of motion that you have available right now. With regular practice, you'll notice expansion on the range of motion, and hopefully it'll reduce some of the tension. Quick disclaimer though, not all tension is bad. Some of it's appropriate for stability. Sometimes too little tension is part of the problem. All right, next up, I'm going to hug both knees and then drop them off to the side. This is good range of motion for the shoulders and rotation of the upper body. I'm going to hold this position. I'm gently pushing my knees down into the ground as I gently push my right shoulder down into the ground. And I hold and breathe. Next, we transition to some active reaches, going across the body and then open up again. Here's another instance where you might place a pillow underneath your shoulder, because pressing it all the way down to the ground can be demanding. So if you can't get down to the ground just yet, bring the ground up to you. After a few active reps, I'll transition back to a hold. Some deep breaths. Fill up as much as you can, and when you exhale, look to empty your lungs. Slowly transition to the other side and begin with a hold. Each hold is about 5 deep breaths. Then the active range of motion. Just like with the 90-90, you might find one side is a little more fluid, a little more free than the other. Take note. Each of these exercises can be an assessment of their own and give us feedback as to how we should shape the rest of our training. Breaking out to other items on the menu might not be part of the routine right now, might not be part of the plan, and that's okay. Focus on your breath. Next, I'm transitioning to a knee hug. Give them a tight squeeze. About 5 deep breaths again. Generally, each hold is 5 deep breaths. You can go more, but I don't recommend you go less. I'm hugging the back of my thigh and going through an active hamstring stretch. My left leg is down, my right leg is squeezing tight, and as you can see, I'm a little restricted in my range of motion. And that's okay, because these hamstrings are built for power, and that means there needs to be some tension in that spring. Next are glute bridges. I brace my belly as I squeeze my butt. On the 5th, I hold, and now it's a reach across the body. With a stable pelvis, I reach side to side, encouraging range of motion in my upper back. Next, while holding the glute bridge, I move my arms through a snow angel. And now we transition over to our bellies. We're going to start with some press-ups. I like to keep my eyes on the ground, either right between my hands or a few inches out in front of me, and squeeze my butt as I push my chest away from the ground. None of these should be painful, and if they are, we transition to the next exercise or modify the range of motion. Here are swimmers. I keep my eyes again on the ground as I pull my arms through range of motion like an overhead press. Here are some rotations, resting on my forearms first, and then I take one arm up and look towards the sky. You'll see I place my hand either on my chest or in front of my shoulder as I turn. About 5 each way. Here I go through some hamstring curls, knee flexion, and now I'm lifting a thigh away from the ground and reaching across my body. Be gentle, lift, and reach. You do not need to reach as far as possible. Simply let your hips come away from the ground slightly as you turn from the bottom up. And now I'm back to a press up as I've greased and grooved the low back and my hips. If the straight arm press up is a little too much, you can rest on your elbows. Keep your eyes out in front of you or down on the ground between your hands. One more hold and breathe. You'll notice here that I finally figure out at some point to relax my shoulders a bit. And now I transition to a child's pose, and then back to my belly. Slide back and forth 5 or so times, making sure you have a good rhythm to your breath. And then it's a hold. Again, 5 to 10 breaths. I'm pushing my hips back as my fingertips reach forward. And now the kneeling hinge. Oh, I'm sorry. I got my order mixed up. This is the quadruped neck series. Gently look to the left and then to the right. See how far you can see over your shoulder without pushing too hard to get there. You gently want to take your eyes where they will go. All these moves are meant to be slow, controlled, and mindful with good breathing. There's a time and a place for explosive exercise, and this is setting the table for it. Look up, look down. Again, slow and steady, listening to your body. It's important to be able to distinguish between pain and discomfort. A little bit of discomfort is okay. It might have been a while since you've moved in this way. Pain is not. Be careful. These are face drops. I bring my face as close as I can to the floor, and then imagine pulling it away as if somebody was getting into my personal space. And now the kneeling hinge, the one that I thought I was up to before. Sit back onto your heels, and then bring your hips towards your knees. Maintain a little bit of a brace in your belly as you squeeze your butt. Next, transition to kneeling, where you lean forward and rock back slightly. Do your best to keep your foot flat. This one is a prerequisite for good balance and single leg stability. And then the same thing on the other side. If you notice one side needs a little more work, feel free to get it in again. Pause this video at any time to work on spots that are especially meaningful to you. And finally, transition to a stand. Here I am finally. Drop your hands down to the ground, and then reach up to the sky. Again, if the ground is far away, perhaps you put a stool out in front of you, a couple of pillows, or find some ledge to press down into. When you reach up high, look to the sky, lean back, and exhale. A few reps, and that's it. This is the sort of thing that's going to help you move better. You might feel a little bit lighter after you're finished. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.